It was one of the wildest nights of 1978. One of San Francisco's largest concert halls was packed to capacity to watch Sylvester, the god of disco music. Bright lights licked the dance floor, bass rhythms shook the ground, forcing thousands of hearts to beat in a single rhythm. But beneath the stage, a drama was quietly unfolding that no one noticed. In the crowd, a wheelchair was being pushed toward the security barriers. A small child sat in the wheelchair, his face pale, his eyes wet, his hands raised in the air. And suddenly, a childlike voice rose above all the noise, "I'm very sick." At that moment, everyone was dancing. But Sylvester stopped. He froze right there in the middle of the spotlights. Because that voice reminded him of the truth hidden behind all the spectacle, all the glitter, and all the entertainment on stage. And what happened that night would forever change not just a child's life, but the conscience of an entire culture. Before you continue following this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Because we'll keep sharing real and touching stories like this with you. Sylvester James Jr.'s journey to 1978 was already a miracle story. He grew up in the Watts neighborhood of Los Angeles, in the shadow of poverty and discrimination. When he sang gospel songs in the church choir as a child, no one could have imagined that he would one day shine on the world's biggest stages. But Sylvester was different. Not just with his voice, but with his identity. When he first encountered gospel music at age 3, he understood that music wasn't just an art form. For him, music was salvation, a breathing space, a way of existing. At 13, he had to leave the church. The reason? He could no longer hide his identity. There was a truth that the Pentecostal congregation couldn't accept: Sylvester was gay, and he didn't want to hide it. When he started going to San Francisco's gay clubs at 15, his life completely changed. There, he found a place where he could be himself for the first time. In the early 1970s, San Francisco wasn't just a city. It was a refuge for everyone society cast out, a place where colorful identity celebrated, where drag culture and musical freedom reached their peak. Sylvester joined a performance group called the Cockettes here. This group was one of the era's most radical art collectives, demolishing traditional theater and music norms with their androgynous performances. When Sylvester took the stage, he wasn't just singing. He was staging an identity, a stance, a manifesto. Capes, high heels, glittering costumes, enormous wigs. Everything was a show. But at the same time, everything was resistance. His 1977 record deal with Fantasy Records was a turning point in Sylvester's career. But success didn't come easy. His first 2 albums didn't get the expected attention. Critics wrote that Sylvester's falsetto voice was incompatible with guitar riffs, that his style was disturbing. But Sylvester didn't give up. Because he wasn't fighting just for a music career, but for himself. When he released the Step 2 album in 1978, everything changed. You Make Me Feel Mighty Real and Dance Disco Heat started climbing the Billboard charts. When these songs played in nightclubs, dance floors filled to overflowing. Sylvester was no longer just a singer. He was a phenomenon. He had become an icon. But let's go back to that concert night. It was the last months of 1978. Thousands of people had gathered at the San Francisco Concert Hall to watch Sylvester. The hall was completely full. People had waited hours for this moment. When Sylvester took the stage, all the lights focused on him. His silver sequin jacket, high-heeled platforms, dazzling makeup. He wasn't just a singer. He was a dream made real. When he approached the microphone, the first notes were heard. His falsetto voice rose toward the ceiling. The crowd went wild. But there was something Sylvester didn't know that night. At the very back of the crowd, in the darkness, there was a small child sitting in a wheelchair. The child's name was Daniel. He was 8 years old. In his small body, he carried a severe illness, spinal paralysis and muscular dystrophy. His family had spent all their savings to buy tickets to this concert to give Daniel his biggest dream. But in the middle of the concert, Daniel's condition worsened. He was having trouble breathing, his chest was rising and falling rapidly. His mother panicked. She wanted to take the child outside, but Daniel resisted. No, Mom, please, he whispered. I just need to reach him. I just need to see him. His mother didn't know what to do. That insistence in her child's eyes, that hope. How could she say no? Daniel began pushing his wheelchair himself, moving through the crowd. People made way. Some tried to understand what was happening, others were just curious. When Daniel reached the security barrier, he gathered all his strength and let out a scream. I'm very sick. The voice covered the entire hall over the music. Sylvester paused at the microphone. He raised his head. His eyes locked onto a point in the darkness. And at that moment, the music stopped. The DJ looked on in confusion from the control room. The crowd went silent. Everyone looked at each other. What was happening? Sylvester slowly put down the microphone. He walked toward the edge of the stage. Security guards tried to approach him, but Sylvester raised his hand and stopped them. He descended the stage steps. As he came down the stairs in his platform heels, silver sequins caught the light with each step. He walked through the crowd. No one was breathing. And then he came to Daniel's wheelchair. Sylvester knelt down there. His face came level with Daniel's. He looked into the child's eyes. How much pain there was in that small, pale face. How much hope. Sylvester reached out and took Daniel's hand. Hello, little man, he said. His voice was soft, very different from that powerful tone in his stage performance. What's your name? Daniel tried to close his eyes, but tears slipped down. Daniel, he said in a hoarse voice. I just wanted to meet you. But my family is very poor. They can't afford treatment costs. I can't go to school. His voice broke. He was having trouble breathing. His mother approached from behind. Please forgive us, she said, her voice trembling. We didn't want to disturb you, but Daniel insisted so much. Your music gives him hope. Meeting you was his biggest dream. Sylvester raised his head and looked at the mother. The same desperation was in the woman's eyes. A parent's greatest fear, being unable to save their child. Sylvester swallowed. At that moment, all the stage shows, all the glittering costumes, all the applause meant nothing. Here, before him, was a real life. Real pain. And Sylvester knew that pain. In his childhood, he too had faced discrimination, been excluded, been alone. But music had saved him. And now, perhaps it was time to save another life. Sylvester stood up. He turned to the crowd. Thousands of eyes were looking at him. Everyone was waiting. What would happen now? Sylvester spoke without a microphone, just with his own voice. But the hall was so silent that every word was heard. This child's name is Daniel, Sylvester said. He's 8 years old. He has spinal paralysis and muscular dystrophy. His family can't afford treatment costs. He can't go to school. But this child came here tonight. To see me. Because music gives him hope. Sylvester paused. He closed his eyes. Then he continued. When I take the stage, I want you to feel special. I want you to dance, to be free. But this child can't dance. This child isn't free. Because society hasn't given him that freedom. Because the system hasn't given him that chance. Sylvester's voice began to rise. But tonight, when we leave this hall, I will guarantee that Daniel will be free. One person in the crowd started clapping. Then another. Then 10 people. 100 people. 1,000 people. The entire hall was on its feet applauding. Sylvester didn't return to the stage that night. He canceled the concert. But no one complained. Because everyone knew they had witnessed something greater. Sylvester called his manager. I'm going to cover all of Daniel's medical expenses, he said. And his education costs too. This child will go to school. He'll get treatment. He'll live. His manager looked at him in shock. "Sylvester, this is a huge financial burden. Your career isn't stable yet." But Sylvester raised his hand. "Money, the stage, the lights. None of that matters. If my music isn't for anyone but me, then what's the point?" The manager nodded. Because at that moment, he saw that Sylvester was not a musician, but a human being. But the story doesn't end here. Because after that night, the whole world started hearing about what Sylvester did. Local newspapers covered the story. National television broadcast interviews. People started talking about Sylvester's gesture. And something changed. Celebrities, artists, musicians were affected. Because Sylvester had reminded them of something, being famous didn't just mean fame. It meant responsibility. Names like Aretha Franklin, Grace Jones, and Diana Ross began connecting directly with their fans. They invited sick children on stage at their concerts. They launched charity campaigns. But most importantly, Daniel's story created awareness for disabled children worldwide. People weren't just going to concerts for entertainment anymore. People were becoming aware of social responsibility. Daniel's treatment began. With Sylvester's support, the best doctors examined Daniel's condition. Physical therapy sessions started. Medications, surgeries, long hospital processes. But Daniel never gave in to despair. Because every day, he listened to Sylvester's albums in his room. "You Make Me Feel Mighty Real" became his anthem. His mother saw Daniel getting stronger every day. More hopeful every day. And Sylvester never left Daniel alone. He visited him in the hospital. He wrote letters to Daniel. He talked to him on the phone. "You're a warrior, Daniel," Sylvester would say. And warriors never give up. Years passed. Daniel grew up. The treatments worked. Though there wasn't a complete recovery, Daniel reached a state where he could live his life. He started school. He went to university. He studied business. And when he graduated, he made the biggest decision of his life. He would establish a foundation for disabled children. A foundation that would support families who couldn't afford treatment costs. A platform that would provide educational opportunities. Daniel wanted to give others the second chance Sylvester had given him. He named the foundation Mighty Real Foundation, after Sylvester's legendary song. Because that song had reminded Daniel of the truth, everyone was worth living. By the late 1980s, Daniel's foundation had made a huge impact. Thousands of disabled children received treatment and educational support. Daniel had also succeeded in the business world. The company he founded grew and grew and grew. And he donated a large portion of the money he earned to the foundation. But Daniel never forgot. He never forgot Sylvester, who came off the stage that night and hugged him. Every year, on the anniversary of that concert, Daniel organized an event. He invited Sylvester. And each time, he thanked Sylvester on stage. "You didn't just give me a chance," Daniel would say. "You gave me a life." But in 1987, bad news came. Sylvester was diagnosed with AIDS. At that time, AIDS was a death sentence. There was no treatment, no hope. Sylvester was beginning the hardest fight he had ever given. But this time, he wasn't alone. Daniel was by Sylvester's side. "You were there for me once," Daniel said. "Now it's my turn." Daniel used all his resources. He found the best doctors. He researched treatment options. He stayed with Sylvester, spent nights at the hospital. Because Sylvester wasn't just an idol. He was the hero who had saved Daniel's life. In 1988, Sylvester gave his last concert. His body had weakened, his voice wasn't as strong as before. But when he took the stage, that same sparkle was still there. That same spirit was still there. And Daniel sat in the front row. He was no longer in a wheelchair. He could stand. When Sylvester looked at him, his eyes filled with tears. Because he knew a miracle had come true. When the concert ended, Sylvester invited Daniel on stage. Daniel hugged Sylvester on stage. The crowd was on its feet applauding. Tears, cheers, emotions. Sylvester leaned into the microphone and said his final words. "This child taught me something," he said. "That the meaning of life isn't in fame, money, or celebrity. The meaning of life is in touching another life." On December 16, 1988, Sylvester said goodbye to life. Due to AIDS complications, he died at only 41 years old. But he left his legacy behind. His music, his courage, his stance. And most importantly, the fact that he touched thousands of lives like Daniel's. Daniel spoke at Sylvester's funeral. "He didn't just give me a chance," he said. "He taught the whole world a lesson. Being famous means being responsible. Being on stage means being for humanity." Sylvester wasn't just an artist. He was a revolution itself. Today, the Mighty Reel Foundation is still active. It has reached tens of thousands of disabled children. Education, treatment, rehabilitation. Everything. And every year, at the Foundation's annual meeting, Sylvester's song "You Make Me Feel Mighty Real" is played. Because that song wasn't just music. That song was hope. It was resistance. It was life. Daniel is now in his 70s. He's still at the head of the foundation. Still keeping Sylvester's legacy alive. Because he knows what can happen when someone gives you a chance. And he lives to give that chance to others. Sylvester's decision to stop that concert wasn't just an anecdote. That decision was a manifesto that changed all celebrity culture. Today, celebrities are closer to their fans. More sensitive. More responsible. Because Sylvester showed them that the stage isn't just for performance. The stage is a platform for humanity. And if an artist is on stage only for their own fame, then they shouldn't be on stage. Sylvester wasn't just a disco star. He was a voice of conscience. He was a monument to humanity. And Daniel is grateful to Sylvester every day. Because he was an 8-year-old child. He was dying. But a man left the stage and touched him. Looked at him. Valued him. And at that moment, Daniel's life changed. Not just by having treatment costs paid. By making him feel valuable. By showing him he was worth living. Sylvester taught Daniel this: life isn't just breathing. Life is having a purpose. And that purpose is touching other lives. Today, the wheelchair story has become legendary. Music historians define this moment as the beginning of social responsibility in pop culture. Because before Sylvester, there was a distance between celebrities and fans. But Sylvester removed that distance. He left the stage and touched the darkness, the crowd, the truth. And that touch changed the whole world. Daniel's foundation has opened branches not just in America, but worldwide. Europe, Asia, Africa. Everywhere, disabled children are finding hope. Getting treatment. Receiving education. And it all starts with the decision Sylvester made that night. To understand Sylvester's legacy, it's not enough to just look at his music. His songs are among the most important works in disco history. But his real legacy is his humanity. In his courage. In his stance. And in the decision he made at that concert. Because Sylvester knew this: music is powerful, but humanity is more powerful. And if an artist makes music only for money, then it has no meaning. But if an artist makes music for humanity, then they are immortal. Sylvester is immortal. Because he wasn't just a voice. He was a heart. And perhaps the greatest lesson is this: we too can be Sylvester. Maybe we're not on stage. Maybe we're not famous. But each of us has the power to touch another life. Each of us has the chance to give hope to a child. Sylvester proved that night. And Daniel proved it with his life. Because extending a hand means saving a life. And saving a life means saving the whole world. Sylvester didn't just leave music to this world. He left a conscience. And that conscience still echoes today. At every concert, on every stage, in every charity campaign, Sylvester's spirit lives on. Because he wasn't just a man. He was a movement. He was a revolution. He was humanity. The story ends here, but the legacy continues. The mighty Reel Foundation reaches tens of thousands of children today. Daniel himself has now retired, but the foundation is managed by a strong team. And every year, a memorial ceremony is held in that old San Francisco concert hall. People gather. Sylvester's songs play. And everyone remembers. They remember that one night, a man left the stage. Touched a child. And the whole world changed. This isn't just a story. This is truth. This is a legacy. And this legacy will live forever.